to work hard to do that. Apart from the procedural flaws with the process, the Patriot Act is a bill that really has been plagued with abuse since it was first passed. After 10 years of a public record, there are some clear sections of the law that need to be improved, and yet here we are again, that instead of debating those sections of the law and finding solutions we can agree on, we are facing an up or down vote on this bill with very little debate. This reauthorization fails to provide the administration with the tools and predictability it needs to fully protect and defend our nation. The administration supports a permanent reauthorization and has asked for a real one. And I think they're willing to work with us in this body on improving the Patriot Act. So this bill fails both to please the advocates pushing to reform the Patriot Act and also fails to provide for the administration, whose job it is to protect our country. Again, we ask, why is the Republican Party jamming this bill through here today instead of debating a real bill that would improve our national security? This bill before us today specifically reauthorizes 3 provisions of the Patriot Act. Section 215 allows the government to capture any tangible thing, any business record that might be relevant to a terrorism investigation. That can include medical records, a diary, even in one case, books that have been checked out of a library. There was a library where somebody checked out a book about Osama bin Laden and who that person was reported on. In the past, these orders were limited to certain classes of businesses and records, and also required that we show specific facts that pertain to an agent of a foreign power. And the Patriot Act has stripped away those basic requirements. That's something that I think every American who values our privacy should be concerned about. This section 215 goes against the basic constitutional notions of search and seizure. We began the session of Congress by reading the Constitution on the floor of the House, and this really comes to the very core identity of what it means to be an American. The government, under our Constitution, is required to show reasonable suspicion or probable cause before they can infringe upon an American's privacy. We ought to seriously consider making changes to this section instead of blindly giving the government the ability to secretly spy on its citizens. Section 206, a second provision of the bill, allows the government to conduct the roving wire taps. These allow the government to obtain surveillance warrants that don't even specify a specific person or an object that's going to be tapped. Another problem with this is the Fourth Amendment of our Constitution, which, again, I'm sure all my colleagues are familiar with, having read it on the floor of the House. It states that warrants must specify the person and places to be seized and searched with particularity. This is to make sure the executive branch doesn't have unfettered power to decide single-handedly who and how to search private citizens and seize their property. The Founding Fathers were concerned and worried about the possibility of a central government authority issuing general warrants that would give it far-reaching power to spy on its citizens and intervene in their private lives. That's an American value that we share today, and I think it's critical to craft protections for our privacy as Americans that can be consistent with the need to secure our country before authorizing the government such overwhelming power. The final section would be the lone wolf provision, which allows secret surveillance of non-citizens in the U.S. These are foreign nationals who are here legally, even if they're not connected to a terrorist group or foreign power. So, again, this authority is only granted in a secret court. So, from our perspective in Congress, without having had the benefit of a classified briefing, it's very difficult for us to exercise any meaningful oversight on a provision when we're not aware of how or if it's been used. My friends on the other side of the aisle have said in numerous debates that they're worried about the growth of government. Yet in spite of the recent rhetoric about how the government is trying to take control over our lives, this bill, their 5th bill under a rule since taking control of the House, actually gives the government the ability to spy on innocent Americans. No wonder so many Republicans joined Democrats in voting against this bill earlier this week, and I encourage my colleagues to continue standing strong for liberties.